You know, I got nothing but love for you, Jay. I got nothing but love for you, Andrea. I just want you to know that while I was unable to be there with y'all this morning, I'm there in spirit, baby. I'm there in spirit. I'm always thinking about you, Jay. I'm always thinking about you, Andrea. Molly, I try to think about you sometimes or whatever, but you know, life, when you're in beautiful weather and stuff like that and you get to eat fruit, you know, stuff like that, I have to say, I mean, it's good for the spirit. We've got some sports to get into, and we will, but I just want to rub it in a little bit because that's what I do from time to time. First takes and a halves. Let's go.
Don't be showing off those shoulders, okay? Because
Listen,
you know how that makes
cold.
me feel.
Okay,
Well,
I want to put this jacket on because it's freezing. They told me that Shannon Sharp keeps this room at 63. I said we need to pump it up.
Shannon's
I'm not
always
Shannon Sharp.
sweating.
We're not built the same.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Black Hulk, he tends to do that from time to time. I just want to say in all sincerity, Andrea, I'm very sorry that you're cold. I mean,
Thank you.
You know, cold is not, you know. I'm very sorry that you're cold. The warm weather.
Stephen A., she's in L.A.
She's in L.A.
Stephen A.,
I'm in LA. The weather's nice out here.
She's
it's
fine.
just fine.
Jay, I mean, I was trying to decide, should I go to the beach after the show? Because I don't know, it's 80 degrees and sunny.
Go for a walk, it's beautiful.
Maybe go for a little stroll, play a little tennis, maybe play some golf.
Beach in the East River? The beach in the East River? Is that what it is?
We got the Hamptons out here. We got the Hamptons. We okay? We okay?
Yeah. Hi, hater.
It ain't got that kind of water. Not the kind of water that's out here.
You're right about that.
Okay.
You ain't wrong about that. That Caribbean bath water
Hey, you just watch out for the iguanas, okay, sweet cheeks? Game 5 tonight in Minnesota. Western Conference Finals. The Timberwolves are favored by 4.5 against the Mavs. Everyone's laughing at my joke. I guess it was funny. The whole studio. Well, the commanding 3-1 series lead, but the Wolves showed life in Game 4 and look to bring the series back to Dallas. The T-Wolves duo of Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns outshined the Mavs, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in Game 4, scoring 10 more points and shooting better from three-point range and the field. Let's break it down. It's game day, folks. Let's see if this is really going to be a series or not, Stephen A., and you know what I mean by that. So who's the most important player tonight?
Well, I definitely think it's Karl Anthony Towns, and it was nice to see Jay basically reiterating that point on Get Up this morning earlier because he's absolutely right. It's Karl Anthony Towns. In the 3 games that they lost in this series, the first 3 games, he was averaging 15 points and 28% shooting, 14% from three-point range. In Game 4, what does he do? 25 points, 69% shooting, 80% from three-point range, and they win that game. Every game has come down to clutch time, so it's not just about him. We understand that. But the flip side to it is that, you know what, he's that number 2 option. And when you look at what transpired in Game 4, It was Anthony Edwards shooting 25 times. It was Karl Anthony Towns shooting 13 times. Should have shot more as far as I'm concerned. Nobody else shot in double digits, yet they shot efficiently. Rudy Gobert from the field, Jaden McDaniels from the field, Mike Conley Jr. from the field, even Naz Reid from the field. You look at those things, Naz Reid is really your third offensive option when you really, really look at it. But the bottom line is that it depends offensively. It rides with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. And if Karl Anthony Towns is compromised in the significant way that he was in those first 3 games, that's going to spell doom for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I definitely think the answer to this question is Karl Anthony Towns. But I got to say this. Just like I highlighted, it was a problem when Anthony Edwards was basically declaring, I got Kyrie before the series began defensively. Jaden McDaniels opening his mouth the way that he did yesterday, talking about they can run the table. I think that's a mistake. That is not something that you do when Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are on the other side of the ball and coming off poor performances by their standards in Game 4. That's poking the bear. In his case, he poked 2 bears. Now I'm worried about this Game 5 because I couldn't believe that young fella opened his mouth like that. That was not wise. I just want to say that.
So, first point, Stephen A. I know your methodology now. I got it. I've been wondering why every time I come on your show, you have so many counters to all of my points. Because you be watching Get Up, you be taking notes on me. Now, okay, I got to change it up on you. I can't give you the data like I gave you before. I see it.
How you just learning that?
I don't know, because I'm doing 9,000 shows.
I watch all of y'all.
Now I know.
Yo, man, I watch you on your podcast. I watch you on your podcast. I watch you when you're doing. I'm watching everything, Jay.
That's everything. The problem. Now I know. All right. So I do think tonight is about Karl Anthony Towns, but the most important player tonight is about that man who had 28, 15, and 10 and had an off night. That is Luka Doncic. I just got off Get Up, and we were having an argument around who is the best player in basketball. Now, I think Luka's top 3. I think the ceiling is so high offensively, it's off the charts. I think the floor, the basement defensively is what will not allow me to say he's the best player in basketball right now. Well, that conversation is starting to happen because of the success in the playoffs. And I think it's interesting coming off the Jaden McDaniels comments. Now, I'll give you your credit, Stephen A. Even though I don't think it's exactly right because I don't see it trash talking the way Anthony Edwards saying I got Luka. But hearing Jaden McDaniels say, hey, we can run the table. The one thing I know about Luka is that he is a petty individual. I've said it before in the show, petty LaBelle. He takes everything that people say, similar to you, and uses it as fuel. And I think Luka missing that free throw after making that 3 that could have put them up to 2. I think these are the little things that Luka, who had an off night with the triple-double, top 10 all-time in triple-doubles in the NBA. Oh, he's going to hear that. He ain't going to miss no free throws tonight. And considering the way Minnesota plays at home as opposed to how they play on the road, I think this is Luka's night for Luka magic to occur.
Go ahead, Stephen A. Yeah, what is it? What is it?
I'm not petty. I'm not petty. I wouldn't call myself Me?
Moi?
I wouldn't say that.
Moi?
Go ahead, Andrea. Go ahead, Andrea.
What's in the cup, Stephen A? Is it a mimosa? Like, what do we have going on right here?
Some
I'm just
Kahlua,
curious.
apparently.
No.
Bailey's?
Andrea, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you noticed about me, but I am a West Indian man, you know.
There we go.
I am a West Indian man, you know. I'm from the islands, St. Thomas. So
Molly knew it was coming.
I got my tea.
I got my tea. I already know.
I got my tea. She know what she been working with me for 8 years, Andrea. You would think you know something by now.
Time out.
You understand?
Time out. Don't even call that tea. That's milk with a little bit of tea. It's like when people get those big iced coffees and they're all white. It's like you're not drinking coffee. You're drinking milk with a splash of coffee.
I don't need to drain myself with a bunch of caffeine to be up in this morning. I get up ready. That's the difference.
Was that supposed to be a shot? I mean, I don't know what was happening.
You the one that's talking about how you always need your caffeine.
Coffee in the
Go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. 1, Stephen A. is petty. 2, I feel like what McDaniels said, well, I don't think it was trash talk. It was just looking a little too far ahead, right? Like, we all talk about staying in the present moment, right? The best thing you can say, one game at a time. I feel like we can win one game at a time. I feel like we have the momentum to win the next game. Don't think it was trash talk, but I do think it was a little misguided to go that far ahead and look past Luka, Kyrie, and what they could do, especially because the Timberwolves have struggled on their home floor. You got to get a win on your home floor. It's not like they've been great on their home floor. The most important player, I agree with Stephen A., is Karl Anthony Towns. I'm going to add to it, though, because while it is, yes, his ability to knock down shots, be efficient, knock down open shots, knock down difficult shots, that spaces the floor, it's Karl Anthony Towns on the defensive end as well. He has to stay out of foul trouble early in the game, late in the game. If Karl Anthony Towns gets in foul trouble, then it starts to throw off your defensive rotations. Now you've got different guys coming in. Now you're putting more pressure on other guys to also stay out of foul trouble. Karl Anthony Towns was in foul trouble. Rudy Gobert was in foul trouble at one point in the last game. So defensively, his ability to play disciplined on that end, because think about it, Jay, Will, you know this. When you pick up a cheap foul early in the game, now it's a little harder to be aggressive on the offensive end, because now you're like, okay, I don't want to duck my shoulder and go to the basket, because now if I get a charge call, now I've got 2 early fouls. So the discipline on the defensive end for Karl Anthony Towns, just as important as the efficiency on the offensive end. But either way, he's the most important player tonight.
Stephen A., can I say something real quick and have you react to it?
You're so right about that. Go ahead, Dre.
Just because I feel like you and Andrea on this point, like I oscillate between Luka and Kat. For Karl Anthony Towns, a lot of people are like, oh, now Game 5 goes back to Minnesota. Minnesota has not been good at home. They've been better on the road than what they've been at home. And by the way, at home, as opposed to the road, on the road, Karl Anthony Towns is averaging in the postseason 22 points on 53% shooting from the floor and 43% shooting from the three-point line. At home, he's averaging 14 points per game on 36% shooting from the field and 30% from the three-point line. So whatever reason that is, just to add to your point, he gonna need to be different tonight in order to get by the Dallas Mavericks. Well, he has to be different.
Well, dare I say, I know it might sound a tad bit odd coming from me, but Jay, Andrea, I dare say the problem with Karl Anthony Towns is that he's a bit emotional. He's a bit emotional. Okay, so when he gets home, gets caught up in that adrenaline, get caught up in that home crowd, gets caught up in all of that stuff, and he's not able to reel in his emotions. That's problematic. You can't do that against guys like Kyrie and Luka because they're too smart offensively. They'll lure you in, and he has to be mindful and careful of that. Karl Anthony Towns in the last series against Denver actually did a better job defending in the post than Rudy Gobert. You can easily argue that. You see the stats that supports that. But against Dallas, you're worried about the alley-oops to the Lively and the Gaffords of the world. But outside of that, it's really about Luka getting into the teeth of the defense and you trying to decide, do you step up to help on Luka or do you drop back because you got to worry about him throwing the oop? And obviously, a split second could cost you, particularly with Gafford, who's a Skywalker. So I look at it from that perspective, and I say to myself, Andrea is right, even though she could be petty too, but we'll talk about that another day. The point is she's right. And she's right when she says it because you can't be Karl Anthony Towns knowing that you got 5 fouls or 4 fouls at the time and you're out defending Luka and fouling him at the three-point line. What are you doing? You've got to be mindful and careful of that. Karl Anthony Towns needs to know he is desperately needed in this game on both ends of the floor, and he's got to step up. He ain't got to play lights out. But you can't mess up the way that you were doing the first 3 games of this series because Ant-Man is going to need you along with the rest of the crew.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep it rolling here, guys. Some more.
Trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ chỉ dẫn cho tất cả các bạn cách tô màu sao cho thật là đẹp. Và bây giờ chúng ta cùng bắt đầu nào.
Bây giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục tô màu nha các bạn. Đây tôi mở xong.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ chỉ dẫn cho tất cả các bạn cách tô màu sao cho thật là đẹp. Và bây giờ chúng ta cùng bắt đầu nào.
Giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục tô nhỏ cho các bạn. Vậy tô màu xong hết thôi.